My wife and I were camping in the wilderness of Canada. We awoke suddenly to the sound of a branch breaking just outside our tent. The first thing that came to my mind was a bear. My wife whispered to me, "Did you hear that?" "Yes," I nodded. She said, "Are you afraid?" "No," I lied. She then said those 7 little words that every man dreads. "Go outside and see what it is." I slowly undid the zipper of the tent. I stepped outside. And there it was, reared up on its hind legs, baring its teeth. There I was, face to face with the most ferocious raccoon I shall ever meet. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Courage is the power of the mind to overcome fear." John Wayne said, "Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway." 30 years ago on the west coast of Ireland, a storm was brewing in the Atlantic. Huge waves were rolling in onto the beach. 4 swimmers had been swept out to sea by a riptide. My father, without a moment's hesitation, went over to our tiny wooden rowing boat, got in. For the next hour, I watched him doing battle, going backwards and forwards through those waves, until he eventually reached the first swimmer and rowed him back to shore. One by one, battle after battle, he endured. He saved those 4 souls. I looked proudly into his tired face, and I said, "Dad, how'd you get to be so brave?" He looked up at me and he said, "Davy, I was scared to death." My first career was working as an engineering officer on cargo ships. After 7 years, I decided to deviate from that. I gave up my job and decided to do volunteer work. And I went on the scientific ship as an engineer, going from island to island across the Pacific over towards Australia. And then the second trip was a year on that tall ship, and that is where I met my wife. So it's another one of those Irishman meets Canadian in Australia and lives in Texas stories.